Okay. Well, why don't we jump into it, Benedikt, and why don't you talk about what you worked on this past week?
Yeah, sure. Let me check. What did I do last week? Still a lot of launch preparation stuff. Fixing little bugs in the UI, adding small new features here and there. I think we somewhat announced our launch date. It will be next Tuesday, August 6th.
That's exciting.
Will be our launch day. We'll see how that goes. I'm both excited and scared at the same time. But yeah, I guess it will be fine. In preparation for that, basically just implemented a lot of small stuff, shared Google Analytics between the marketing website and our application, just because we figured out, hey, we have to track conversions. But the actual conversion happens on an entirely different website. We should probably connect those two.
Yeah.
So I set that up earlier today. We also fixed a lot of small things in the user interface, like small styling issues or data that wasn't showing up, like all the small things you just wrote down in the past and didn't bother fixing.
Mm-hmm.
Those were worked on last week.
So if they're small like that, what was the decision-making process like between this is small and it's not going to keep anybody from getting value, and it's small, but we need to fix it? What was that like?
I think the main criteria is it stopping anyone from getting value, or is it just like a minor thing that isn't really hurting anyone? And if it's a small thing, then it just ends up in GitHub, and I get to it when I get to it. And I figured this week I should probably take some of those and just fix them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the only decision making there. It's not super sophisticated.
Good enough for the start.
Yeah, and then I think it was 2 weeks ago we had the first potential scammer sign up. That was interesting. I mean, it was clear that will happen at some point, but they started signing up and had a super weird website that tried to look like a banking website, and it was probably something phishing related. I don't know, but it was the first occasion where we were thinking, okay, maybe we should have a way to suspend accounts like that.
Right, got it. They were not trying to scam you all. They are running a scam site.
Yes, they were,
and adding services to it to be more effective at scamming.
Yes.
Yeah.
We never really figured out what their thinking was and what they were planning to do, because I don't know, they signed up and already had a very, very strange company name, and that's what caused us to look into them.
Strange. Yeah.
And then the website the website they provided was super scammy, and the sender domain was super scammy, impersonating a different bank, and it was a lot of here and there, and but up until recently we didn't have a way to suspend accounts like that, and just block everything until we figure out what's going on, and then maybe unblock them if they're actually legitimate. In their case, we sent them an email and never heard back from them. So I guess it wasn't legitimate.
Probably not.
Yeah. What else? Oh yeah, one small new feature we implemented was we support nested properties. So unlike other email automation tools, you can send first name and last name and stuff, but also deeply nested JSON objects. And we added more support for that in the user interface so that you can actually browse those and dig deeper into, I don't know, some people are sending a company object that then has some more properties, and you can now click into those and explore them. And also when you define filters to segment people or search for someone, you can also get autocomplete for those now, which is actually pretty cool. It only took about an hour to build that, and I learned about like Postgres has a way to do recursive queries, and with that it was possible to like read the JSON object in the database table and just get back a list of all the nested paths and all the events and stuff.
Nice.
So it was amazing. I don't fully understand how it works, but it does. So
Nice. Is that kind of energizing and still fun for you to learn brand new things, or do you prefer like the sense of mastery that comes from repetition of something that you already know?
I think learning new stuff is always exciting.
Yeah.
So new challenges are, yes, challenges, but also it's an opportunity to grow and learn new things. So I appreciate when something like this comes up.
Yeah.
Preferably when it's like not in a hair on fire situation.
Obviously. Yeah, that's the major caveat. Learning new things when the water is rising is not exciting. It's not fun.
No, not at all. But like doing stuff when it's not time critical, that's usually enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was only a week, so
yeah. No, it went by fast. Okay, but August 6th though. So next time we talk, you will have launched.
Yes.
Okay.
I will report back.
Are there any critical to-dos remaining, or do you feel like no, at this point you're just kind of chipping away at some nice to haves?
Like application wise, like development wise, it's done. I'm not adding anything.
Code freeze.
Yeah, it's more or less code freeze. I mean, I've been saying that for 2 weeks now and still change stuff, but
code
no
freeze,
major
final uppercase.
Yeah, exactly. No new features in that regard. But we still have a couple of to-dos, like preparing for the launch, like
on that, like marketing and assets and things like that. Okay, totally.
Preparing tweets to send and emails to send, and basically have everything ready as early as possible, so we don't like next Tuesday not sitting there wondering, okay, we should probably send an email. What do we write? Basically just prepare everything. And
what do you have y'all talked about what does a successful launch look like?
Yes, we talked about it, and we don't have any expectations, basically.
Right. Successful launch.
Did I talk about this last week? I'm not entirely sure. I talked about this stuff with my mastermind groups and stuff. So if I repeat myself, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
But like the nature of the product isn't really in a way that like people see it and sign up and start using it, but it has to be the right time in their product journey, and they have to have the need for it. And maybe, basically timing is a critical aspect there. So we don't expect anyone to see us on Product Hunt and be like, oh yes, that's exactly what I was looking for today, and just sign up. So I think getting the word out and getting some more views on the website and hopefully getting in front of a lot of new people, that's probably our goal.
Oh, good goal. Successful launch is to launch.
Yes.
and the real fun can begin.
Yeah. So what did you do? What was your week like?
Yeah, I'm glad we're having this conversation, because it ended up feeling to me like such a good example of the challenge that I've just continued to face in making progress on the product side of things. because really good things end up, taking up a good bit of my time. And so we talked on Wednesday, and then Thursday left with the family for a camping trip. And so we drove on Thursday, just basically a day off for me. And then I worked from a town nearby, Crested Butte, actually, if anybody in the U.S. is listening, familiar with Crested Butte, Colorado. And so I worked Friday from Crested Butte, and needed to work on a couple of urgent things, urgent and important. So I had two client proposals that I needed to write up and send on out. And then of course we were hanging out in the mountains over the weekend and doing some fun fly fishing and and that kind of thing. And then spent some time trying to tighten up a site redesign for my consulting site, brianray.com. And that means that I spent about 2 hours on Feature Audit between the last time we talked and right now, and it was just like writing up some user stories to kind of queue up for a big development push. Which just didn't feel like enough time for me to really get my mind shifted from services oriented consulting work and strategy there. And am I doing this right? And, what do I want to do, et cetera, and just get deep into, what are the observations that I've made? What's the feedback that I've got? And what can I do first and next to add something of value here? What's really funny is, so it's 8:13 a.m. My time. Last night at 8:00, I got an email from somebody who had just signed up for the waiting list, for Feature Audit's waiting list, and sent me an email. I was like, "Hey, is there any way I can cut in the line? Like, we're running a startup trying to do this exact thing," and like they had a sense of urgency about it. So I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." So, major to do for me over this next week is to follow up with that person and try and get on the phone with them, talking through exactly like, yeah, definitely I can cut you to the front of the line. What's going on in your world right now that this feels that urgent for you? Not just that you would sign up for the waiting list and say, okay, we'll hear back from this guy when they get around to it, but to reach out and say, hey, we really want to install this right now. What can we do? So that's part of my major, I guess, objective right now is just to find 5 to 10 like true fans, and treat them very, very special, and use their urgency and their feedback to drive like the little bit of software development that I want to be adding to this thing right now. There's not a lot of software in it. Like Benedikt, you could jump into that code base and like have it, it's intentional that there's not much there. I want to keep it that way for as long as I possibly can. I would like to be adding more to it than I am on a weekly basis. That's kind of a challenge, but that is a challenge. But anyway, so that's what the last week looked like for me. Was a pretty typical example of the time management challenge that I am currently failing at, trying to get better, trying to improve on. But then a little, an encouraging note at the very end of it that I want to use to pull some energy into this next week.
Do you have a plan, like how to find those 5 to 10 fans?
Yeah.
What's your plan there?
Yeah, I'm a member of several product groups, a couple of Slack groups that are relatively active and local. And there are a handful of meetups that I go to, on it's pretty irregular, but when I go, like very faces that recognize me that I know too.
Mm.
And just in kind of testing the waters from time to time. It has not been super challenging to get some interest and to know they're ready to sign up. There's just nothing to sign up for right now. And so so to answer the question directly, it's going to be through personal contacts and personal groups. I'm not going to try to start throwing money at ad spend to find those people. That would be a plan B. Would be to intentionally drive more traffic to the site, keep it closed so that the people who are passionate about it will self-select and email me directly the way this person did and say, hey, we really do, we need this right now, we're struggling.
And did you consider using Feature Audit in your consulting work? Is that an option?
To do feature audits for my clients, you mean?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Just having an excuse to spend more time with your product.
Yep.
At the same time, providing value to your consulting clients.
Yep. Yeah. So there have been two companies where I talked to the owner and said, hey, I want to install this thing for free. It's like my little side project, and I'm gonna put it in here for you, like the SaaS product itself, the analytics tool. Not saying, hey, give me access to your analytics tools and I am going to run a feature audit for you, but it was install the software. And that was, it was good. Learned some stuff from it. This is, 8 months ago now, because those two clients, it made perfect sense for them. And I've been maybe overly cautious or overly hesitant to kind of bring it into every one of my consulting projects. I think because I've been hesitant of I'm trying to force this, or you know what I mean, self-censoring the how applicable it could be. So to answer your question, a couple of times, but not as a point every single time. Because in those cases, it's because I was part of my work for them was building an application and helping them to see how it was being used. And then in these other cases where it's we need to do some customer interviews and understand, jobs to be done and our customer motivations, it felt kind of like forcing it to be oh, hey, also, can I put an analytics tool on your website? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I was just thinking that it might be a good way to solve your focus dilemma in a way.
Yes,
you could probably justify spending some time in the code or so to improve it so it would work for one of your clients, and you could kind of
totally
hack it that way.
Yeah, no, that's a good thought. My major, my biggest client right now, they have a very complex already, and it's pretty young, pretty complex tool trying to help healthcare or employers provide better healthcare to their employees in the United States. You don't have to worry about that sort of thing because you live in a civilized country with respect to healthcare. Totally different topic. But my primary role for them is not the application development. I definitely touch it. I do some front end work for them, but my main focus for them is going towards some products.
Yeah, I can see that it would be hard to justify it if it's not really super aligned with what you do for them. Then it feels forced, and
But I like thanks for asking the question. I like the the thought process of, okay, so the time like prioritizing it in a typical week, like that's not going to get better on its own. So how is there a way that you can
Yeah.
find a way to blend it in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should do a lot more thinking on that.
Yeah, because I at least for me, it's usually like when I have a big consulting project going on, all the time I spend on something else, I kind of feel guilty because like I know I should probably be working for that client because they pay me a lot of money and want to see results and stuff. So, but like if you align those two a little bit, then you could justify the time spent on improving the product because it will also improve the results for that client. Maybe that's a way to make more progress.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good feedback. It's good thoughts. I will. Let's revisit this. Should just throw it into our outlines Google Doc here for
for future reference.
Please ask me about this. Okay, well, good. So one thing we talked about last week was maybe just giving a little bit more background about how we each got into software. Generally, we talked a little bit about what we've been up to the past couple years. But yeah, how did you get started on this to begin with?
I think I started. Let me think. It's almost 20 years ago. Now that I think of it, basically when I was in school, I got a computer and for the first couple of years I just used it for gaming, and eventually, I think it was close to 2000 when I just went into a bookstore and bought this book on how to build websites, and it was like touching on everything, like from HTML to, I'm not sure if CSS was a thing back then, but like Perl and hosting and setting up domains and stuff. It was a really big book, and that got me started. And
do you remember the book specifically? Name?
No, I don't remember it anymore. And it was like I think this is a German publisher, and they usually they publish very low quality books. And I'm sure, like looking back at it, it probably was a low quality book, but it was like, I don't know, it was enough to get me started
for what you needed. Yeah.
And from there, as I mentioned, Perl was mentioned in that book, and I was trying to learn Perl, and then a friend was like, "No, don't bother with Perl. There's this thing called PHP. You should learn PHP." So, I got another book and learned PHP and built the first, I don't know, interactive applications with a lot of security issues, and got started that way. And I think over the years I just kept doing that. And when I was out of school, I basically got a university degree in computer science because of like my destiny was set at this point.
Cool. And, what were some of those earliest? What were the earliest things you were building in PHP?
I think one of the earliest things were just like simple websites that like we're using PHP to just like reuse the layout and stuff, and include another PHP file based on the params in the URL, where you then just define whatever file you wanted and get it. Stuff like that. And back in the day, I was like super into Ultima Online. I don't know if you know, this is like multiplayer role-playing game and stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't play it, but the name rings a bell.
And I think they were one of the first to actually do this massive multiplayer online stuff. And back in the day, they didn't have a section in there that you're not allowed to reverse engineer the server and stuff. So there were a lot of like open source and independent servers out there, and I started one with my friends. And
cool.
I think that was the first time where I really started developing useful stuff. So we built a website for that and an issue tracker and stuff like that. And yeah, that's how I got into remote software development, I guess.
Wow.
I have a feeling like I didn't really develop any new skills like over the years. I basically still hang out in chat rooms, chatting with people, writing code together. And yeah, podcasting. I did some, like, back in the day, there was like those radio streaming services like Shoutcast and stuff. So I started that back then. Now I'm sitting here recording a podcast with you. It's like nothing really changed. It's just like, just growing older and still doing the same things.
Yeah.
It's not IRC anymore. Now it's Slack, but still, I mean, it's essentially the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, and at some point I discovered Ruby and Ruby on Rails, and that was just like the last big transition. Like, dropped PHP back then, and then continued building more sophisticated stuff in Rails. And
what was your first paying job as a developer?
Like after university, my first paying job was a Rails development job for a local startup. It doesn't exist anymore, but yeah, it was like employee number 3 or so there.
Okay.
And we did
full-time employment as a Rails dev.
Yeah, that was like my first full-time job, but I did a lot of freelancing and consulting earlier. Like, even when I didn't have any formal education in software development, I already started like building websites for aunts and uncles and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like the path was clear very early on. Like, I never wondered what I'll be doing when I get out of school and stuff. So
yeah.
What's your origin story?
In 95 or so, I'm from a small town in Northeast Texas called Paris, Texas, like 25,000 people. And my dad had gotten into like mail order computer repair. So he did work at like the factory in town, like it's like a bakery. But he just kind of started tinkering around with computers on his own. Quit his full-time job to do mail order computer repair. People would like ship their Apple IIe power supplies to our house, and he and my brother and me sometimes would fix. He showed us how to fix those, and we'd send them back, and so that was kind of cool. But then the internet came along, and so he started. He became the first or one of the first internet service providers, ISPs, in the town, and he showed it to me, and was like, Brian, I think this is going to be a pretty big deal. And I just thought it was cool because I could go to Yahoo's directory and find Nirvana lyrics, and I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. So you're telling me I could build a website for my favorite band. Cool. And so, so I just, remember learning, HTML and, this is before like CSS was even like a thing. And so he would, go around, the town and sell, websites to businesses, and then bring them, to his 15-year-old kid. And so that's how I got started with it. And I wish I knew then what I knew now, because I would have gone about things a little bit differently. Because as much as I enjoyed like tinkering around with it, it was at the time I was much more. I wasn't just super like enthralled with it. I wasn't like spending tons of time just like diving into code, just hacking. I don't think I've never been that great of a developer, like in a programmer sense of like just completely being able to think through all of the stuff that like backend guys like you do. And it's partially magic to me. And so what I did in college was I got a degree in art education. And I was actually an art teacher for 4 years after school, after graduating from college. But I was always like tinkering with websites and stuff on the side. Like it was a skill that I never completely gave up. And through college, like I worked part-time for my dad, still building websites for his business that he continued to run. And so still kind of tinkering with it on the side, even as a teacher. And then when I left teaching to get back into the business world, the company that I was working for, doing sales and marketing for them, a small business, like, 12 employees. So doing sales and marketing for them. And it just kind of became something that I absorbed, was like responsibility for the website. Keeping it maintained, like, hey, people are starting to do this thing called like, content marketing. I think we should do so. So it's like 2008. Like, hey, inbound marketing, like that's a thing now. We should think about that. And so continuing to work for them, but was not loving it. And this is around the time that, my wife and I had our first and then second child, and she was wanting to be able to stay home. And so to quit her full-time job, I was like, well, hey, why don't I just start like charging for, like, why don't I try and do some freelance web projects to kind of, bridge that gap a little bit to make this happen for the family. And so, and then that, like, one project led to another, and they kept stacking up. And then it was like, well, actually, I'm liking doing this more than the full-time job over here. And so continued to like build that side business and sock some money away until then, like quit the full-time job, went back to web development and technology full-time. And so I've been in it ever since. That was in Dallas, Texas. And when we moved out to Colorado, it was, I was trying to find a job as a front-end developer with a startup, somewhere out here. So the short version of that story is that I built a little like portfolio site that was hirebrianray.com. And it was just like a silly, like, telling of, we live in super hot Texas. I would love to live in Colorado where, cherubs sing and, it's just the land of promise and heaven and whatever. Also, I build websites. Here's my portfolio. Hey, startups in Boulder and Denver, anybody want to hire me? And Brad Feld, who's like the godfather of startups in Boulder, tweeted it and said someone in Boulder should hire brianray.com. And like for 2 weeks, it was bonkers. It totally worked. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. And so I joined an amazing team out here doing front end development, and then eventually worked my way up into a product role. And that's what I've been doing. So I've been doing ever since.
Nice. I just checked, like it still shows up in Google results, but like loading the website doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. No, it's archived. I know where to find it.
I'll go in the hunt and
yeah. No, it was, I mean, I think now it's funny how trends are funny, because at the time it did like parallax scrolling and just some things that at the time was like, ooh, whiz bang, cool, and people were very complimentary about it. But now I look at it and I'm just like, yeah, I mean, it was just like, I don't know, it's like a little over the top maybe, but I mean, the time and place, it spoke to the audience, and like that's kind of the whole point. Yeah. So that's how I got to where that's how I've arrived at like this part of my story. Is I really loved working, and it definitely had its challenges. It was not like perfect, and you always kind of look back with rose-colored glasses, maybe. But that time working on that product with a team was just, it was in a lot of ways very, very, very fulfilling. If not, it was not perfect, of course, like I said, but it was very fulfilling. And so now, having been doing client work for I guess almost 2 years straight now, like, I'm just really feeling the itch to get back to be working on and contributing to my thing. It's like the artist part of me doesn't have a full and complete expression right now. It's like, yeah, totally, let me apply my expertise to your creation. I can help you with that, and get compensated for it, and then going on to the next thing. Like that's not who I am. And so that's what I'm at my core anyway. That's what I'm trying to. That's why I feel the pull to try to get back into the product side of things, because I want to have like an expression of my point of view.
Yeah. I totally get that. So is your ultimate goal to be like a product person and just do like your own product, or do you want to keep on doing this like side by side, or what's your ultimate goal?
Yeah, it is to have my own product. And I, the reason I'm hesitating, Benedikt, is because the thing that I've also kind of been feeling stirring is, I keep thinking, and I've been saying, that it's a SaaS product that expresses my point of view on how small companies ought to run their software, their product development process. But there's also the part that's like, well, I mean, what if my product is, some teaching tools around that? It doesn't have to be a SaaS product. What if you do info products? And so and this came up in a conversation where I was saying, yeah, like the artistic side of me just doesn't feel like I have a full expression right now, and that's why I want to do my own thing. And they said, well, what about the educator in you? Like, you are an art teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if part of it is is education and teaching? And so that kind of shook me a little bit, of like, oh yeah, wow, what if that is the the thing that I need to be, or that I could be moving towards as well. So anyway, does that answer the question? I mean,
yeah, it does.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. But so in either way, like, much as I love, I don't dislike services work at all. I really like my clients, and especially getting to kind of, to a degree, pick your clients.
Mm-hmm.
Just the coolest people doing very interesting things in healthcare and education, and in industries that I think need to be improved. It ultimately just comes down to, like, this is your thing that I'm working on. I want to work on my thing. It needs to be like my personality and my expression. So
Yeah.
Is your goal with Userlist as well to transition entirely into working on that and only that, or is it the plan to do both still, or we'll see?
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Like right now, the plan is definitely to make it the full-time
Okay.
thing.
Got
to
it.
just like do this product and be happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been in that position, so I don't really know what it's like.
Yeah.
It might be as well that I reach my goal and then realize that's not my thing.
Yeah.
And like from past experience, I know that I like building new stuff a lot more than like maintaining stuff over time.
Mm-hmm.
And any potential clients listening, customers listening to this, that doesn't mean we'll abandon Userlist anytime soon. Building new stuff is more exciting than maintaining a big, huge application that's been running for years.
Yeah.
At least to me. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, we see.
Yeah.
Let's get there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, right.
But
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, Benedikt, I think we can kind of hold it there for next week. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Well, so the next time we talk, I can't wait to hear about how your launch went.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
My only hope is that nothing like breaks catastrophically.
Yeah.
That would be like my only wish. Everything else is probably fine. But I'll report next week.
Perfect. All right. Good chatting with you.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we'll talk next week.
Yep. See you.